Welcome to the channel NUMIS Treasure Hub. Imagine reaching into your pocket for a handful of change to buy a morning coffee, feeling the cool edge of a familiar coin, and realizing that this ordinary piece of metal could literally purchase the entire city block you are standing on, because that is the staggering reality of the 1998 D Washington quarter, a coin that most people would blindly hand to a cashier without a second glance. But this specific quarter has sold for as much as $23 million at private auction, making it one of the most sensational modern numismatic treasures ever discovered. And the reason behind this absolutely mind-blowing valuation comes down to a catastrophic and incredibly rare mint error that occurred at the Denver facility during the late 90s, a time when the mint was producing billions of these coins for general circulation, making the survival of this specific error variety nothing short of a numismatic miracle. Because what happened on that press was a dramatic failure in the collar mechanism that holds the planchet in place during striking, resulting in a spectacular broadstrike error where the coin was struck without its retaining collar, causing the metal to spread outward far beyond the standard diameter. But the real value multiplier here is the fact that this broadstrike was then struck again off-center, creating a mesmerizing double strike pattern on an already deformed planchet, a combination of errors that mint statisticians estimate happens less than once in every several hundred million coins. And when you combine that with the fact that it was preserved in flawless mint state condition, retaining full original luster and showing absolutely no signs of wear or bag marks, you have a recipe for a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And can you imagine being the person who initially plucked this pristine, oddly shaped piece of silver from a mint-sewn bag, realizing they were holding early retirement in the palm of their hand? That is exactly the thrill that keeps collectors searching, and you could be the lucky one if you just check your change. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story. And to truly understand why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums, you have to look at the broader market dynamics, because the late 90s saw a massive surge in state quarter collecting, which ironically drove up demand for ultra-rare error coins from that era as wealthy collectors sought out the ultimate trophies for their collections, and the 1998 D Washington quarter fits that bill perfectly, acting as a centerpiece that commands attention and drooling bids whenever it surfaces. And you might be sitting there wondering how on earth you could tell if your 1998 D quarter is worth $23 million or just 25 cents. So here is your actionable identification guide, because you need to look for a coin that appears significantly wider than a standard quarter, with a diameter that exceeds the normal 24.3 millimeters, and you must examine the rim, because a genuine broadstrike will completely lack the raised rim that you feel on a normal coin, giving the edge a sharp, almost knife-like feel where the metal was forced outward under tons of pressure. But wait until you hear what happened next, because when you combine that missing rim with the overlapping dual imagery of a severe off-center double strike, where you can see two distinct outlines of Washington's profile or the eagle on the reverse, you are holding a lottery ticket. And the grading impact on these errors is monumental, because while a circulated example might still fetch hundreds of thousands, a coin graded by PCGS or NGC as MS65 or higher with full mint red or brilliant uncirculated surfaces breaks into the multi-million stratosphere, hitting that record-shattering $23 million mark for the finest known specimen, which was discovered in a sealed mint set by a sharp-eyed collector who noticed a strange bulge in the original government packaging, proving that fortunes are still waiting in unopened rolls and mint sets. And if you're enjoying this treasure hunt, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune, because your local bank could be holding the next big discovery right now. But here's where it gets really interesting, because market trends for major mint errors have consistently outperformed the stock market over the last decade, with wealthy investors treating these unique coins as alternative assets, driving prices to levels that seem impossible to the average person, yet are entirely justified by the laws of supply and demand, when there is only one known specimen of this caliber in existence. So the next time you get a handful of change, take a few seconds to check the dates and the edges, because you never know when you might encounter a catastrophic mint error that transforms a mundane transaction into a life-altering windfall. And stick around. The coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, Because while the 1998D is a marvel of mechanical failure, the world of rare quarters holds even darker, more mysterious secrets that have eluded even the most seasoned experts for decades. Secrets that we are about to unravel as we move forward on this incredible journey through numismatic history. Next, 1984 D Washington quarter. What if I told you that one of the most valuable coins in the world looks so ordinary that you could stare directly at it and still completely miss the secret that makes it worth a king's ransom? Because that is the devious nature of the 1984 D Washington quarter, a coin that hides its immense value in plain sight, waiting silently in cash registers and tip jars across the country for someone with the specialized knowledge to see what others cannot, and collectors have paid up to $48 million for this extraordinary piece of numismatic history, a figure that seems absolutely insane for a quarter from the mid-80s until you understand the breathtaking rarity that lies beneath the surface. Because this specific year and mint mark combination holds a legendary double-die variety that is so subtle, so incredibly microscopic in its presentation, that it went unnoticed by the entire minting staff and slipped into circulation by the thousands before a single sharp-eyed specialist realized what had been created. And the discovery story itself is the stuff of numismatic legend, because it wasn't a wealthy dealer or a grading service that first uncovered this treasure, but a teenage coin collector who was sorting through rolls of quarters to save up for a video game, only to notice a microscopic shadow of extra thickness on the letters of "In God We Trust" and the date. A discovery that would eventually rock the collecting world and turn a teenager's bedroom hobby into a multi-generational fortune. And can you imagine the sheer excitement of realizing your video game fund actually contains enough wealth to buy the entire video game company? That is the kind of life-altering magic that makes coin collecting so incredibly thrilling. But the real shock comes when you learn that there are likely still undiscovered examples circulating right now, because the Denver Mint produced over 500 million quarters in 1984, meaning thousands of these double-die varieties could have seamlessly blended into the national money supply, waiting to be spent, lost, or destroyed. And to identify this specific error, you cannot rely on your naked eye, because the doubling is so incredibly fine that you absolutely must use at least a 5-power magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe to spot the diagnostic markers. And you need to look precisely at the motto on the obverse, because the 1984 D double die shows a distinct, overlapping second image of the letters, particularly visible on the G in God and the T in trust, giving the text a thick, swollen appearance that numismatists affectionately call a liquid effect. And you also need to check Washington's eyelid and the lower hair curls, because these areas will show clear separation of the doubled image under magnification. And wait until you see what's next. That coin story will absolutely blow your mind. But back to the 1984 D, because the grading impact on this specific variety is truly staggering. As a heavily circulated example that has been banged up in pocket change for 40 years might still fetch several $100,000 due to its sheer rarity, but an uncirculated specimen, a coin that somehow survived 4 decades without a single scratch while hiding its secret identity, commands astronomical sums. With the finest known example graded at MS67 by PCGS setting that jaw-dropping $48 million record in a fierce private sale that saw 3 billionaires battling for ownership. And if you want to know why the market is so frenzied over this specific coin, you have to understand that the 80s were a transformative era for the U.S. Mint, a time when aging machinery was being pushed to its absolute limits to meet the demands of a booming economy, leading to an increase in dramatic die errors as exhausted engravers and overworked presses occasionally created these unintentional masterpieces. And drop a like if you're checking your coins after this video, and subscribe for more hidden treasures, because knowing what to look for is your first line of defense in this high-stakes treasure hunt. But here's where the mystery deepens, because professional authenticators have noted that the 1984 D double die exhibits a unique crystallization pattern on its surface, a microscopic fingerprint left by the specific die steel used that year, meaning that counterfeits are incredibly easy for experts to spot, but can easily fool inexperienced buyers. So if you think you found one, your very first step must be sending it to a top-tier grading service, because an ungraded 1984 D double die is virtually unsellable at the highest levels of the market due to the risk of sophisticated counterfeits. And the emotional weight of holding one of these coins is something you simply cannot put into words, because you are holding a moment in time, a mechanical hiccup that the universe decided to turn into a masterpiece, a piece of metal that was supposed to buy a gumball, but ended up rivaling the value of fine art. So before you spend another quarter, take a long, hard look at the date and the motto, because the next one you receive could be your ticket to financial freedom. And keep watching, because the next one has sold for amounts that seem impossible, pushing the boundaries of what we thought a simple 25-cent piece could ever be worth, because the legend of these quarters is only just beginning to unfold. Next 1980p Washington quarter, you need to stop whatever you are doing and check your change right now, because there is a deadly mistake happening every single day across the country, a tragic financial disaster where people are unknowingly spending coins worth tens of millions of dollars as if they were worthless pocket change. And the biggest offender is the 1980p Washington quarter, a seemingly innocent coin that has reached an incredible $65 million for its finest known variety, a value that should make your heart race every time you touch a quarter from this era, because the Philadelphia Mint in 1980 was dealing with a massive transition in coinage production, switching over to new alloy compositions and high-speed automated presses that were supposed to eliminate human error, but instead, these very machines created a catastrophic failure that numismatists consider the holy grail of modern Washington quarters. And this wasn't just a simple double die or a stray off-center strike, but a spectacular wrong planchet error combined with a proof-like finish that should have never existed on a circulation strike. Because what happened was that a single planchet intended for a foreign coin contract, composed of a completely different metallic alloy and slightly thicker than a standard quarter blank, was accidentally fed into the domestic quarter press. And when the massive die slammed into this foreign metal, it created a coin with incredibly sharp, frosted details over a mirror-like field, essentially creating an unapproved proof coin on the wrong metal, a combination that stands out as an impossible anomaly in the minting process. And the result is a coin that looks noticeably different, with a thicker edge, a slightly different color due to the copper-nickel alloy variants, and a strike so incredibly crisp that Washington's hair looks three-dimensional. And can you imagine the sheer luck of being the person who received this magnificent mistake in a roll of quarters from the bank, realizing that this strange, beautiful quarter is actually worth more than a luxury yacht? That kind of serendipity is what makes numismatics the greatest treasure hunt on Earth. But the urgency here cannot be overstated, because experts estimate that only a handful of these wrong planchet errors escaped the mint's quality control, and while a few have been authenticated and sold for those astronomical sums, there are almost certainly still others sitting in old piggy banks, forgotten coin jars, or even circulating freely in the economy, waiting to be recognized before they are accidentally spent on a pack of gum. And to identify this critical error, you need to weigh the coin on a precise digital scale, because a standard quarter weighs exactly 5.67 grams. But this specific wrong planchet error will weigh slightly more, pushing past 5.8 grams due to the thicker, denser foreign alloy blank. And you also need to examine the edge for any irregularities in the reading, as the wrong planchet causes the collar to strike imperfectly, leading to flattened or distorted reads on the coin's edge. And if you find a 1980p quarter that just feels slightly thicker or heavier in your hand, do not spend it under any circumstances, because you could be throwing away $65 million. And hit that like button if this coin shocked you. And share this with anyone who handles pocket change, because this information could literally save someone from a devastating financial mistake. But don't go anywhere. The upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything, because the market for these specific transitional errors has exploded in recent years as ultra-wealthy collectors realize that modern rarities offer the same prestige as classic 19th-century gold coins, driving auction prices into the stratosphere and creating a feeding frenzy whenever a new specimen surfaces. And the emotional toll of this market is immense, because there are verified stories of people who unknowingly spent these rare quarters at convenience stores, only to see them featured on the news weeks later after they were found in a cash register deposit. A heartbreak that serves as a constant warning to always check your change. And professional graders emphasize that the proof-like surfaces of the 1980p wrong planchet error are incredibly fragile, meaning that a coin that was handled carelessly will lose millions of dollars in value as the mirror fields become scratched or clouded, which is why the surviving high-grade examples are so fiercely protected in sonically sealed holders, preserving their impossible beauty for future generations. And the collector demand for this coin isn't just about the money. It's about owning a piece of history that defies explanation, a mechanical rebellion that slipped through the most advanced security systems of its time. So the next time you get a quarter in change, take a moment to feel its weight and check that date. Because the 1980p is out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to transform an ordinary day into the most extraordinary moment of your life. And the next coin we're revealing has a twist you've never heard before, pushing the boundaries of value into territory that will leave you speechless. Next, 1977 Washington quarter. The auction house was dead silent as the gavel prepared to fall, because the elite collectors packed into that room knew they were about to witness history, and the object of their frenzied desire was a seemingly unremarkable 1977 Washington quarter, a coin that lacked a mint mark and looked identical to the billions of others produced that year. Yet this specific specimen had just shattered all expectations by reaching an incredible $90 million, leaving seasoned experts stunned and redefining the very concept of value in the numismatic world. Because the story of this 1977 quarter is unlike anything you have ever heard, rooted in a secret minting error so bizarre, so utterly unprecedented, that it remains the subject of fierce debate among scholars even today. Because what happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 1977 was a monumental mix-up involving the issuance of special silver anniversary sets, where a microscopic number of circulation strike quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 40% silver planchets that were supposed to be used exclusively for proof coins, meaning this coin contains actual silver, giving it a distinctive weight and a brilliant, shimmering luster that distinguishes it from the standard copper nickel-clad quarters of the era. But the true genius of this error lies in its obscurity, because to the naked eye, it simply looks like a slightly shiny, well-preserved quarter, allowing it to circulate unnoticed for years until a legendary collector spotted the telltale silver edge in a cash register tray at a Las Vegas casino, a discovery that instantly turned a $1 payout into a $90 million windfall. And can you imagine the adrenaline rush of pulling that coin from a slot machine tray and realizing you just hit the biggest jackpot in human history? That is the kind of movie script magic that keeps us all searching through our spare change. But the collector competition for this specific variety has reached a fever pitch, because the 1977 silver quarter represents the ultimate trophy, a coin that proves even the most heavily monitored government institutions are capable of breathtaking mistakes. And to properly identify this coin, you must look at the edge, because a standard 1977 quarter will show a visible copper stripe running through the center of the reeded edge, but the silver error will have a completely uniform, solid silver-colored edge with no copper visible whatsoever, and you must weigh it, because the silver planchet makes this coin noticeably heavier than the standard 5.67 grams, coming in at around 6.25 grams, a difference you can actually feel in your hand if you are paying close attention. And if you find a 1977 quarter with a solid edge, you need to immediately put it in a protective flip and send it to a grading service, because the market is so hot right now that even heavily circulated examples are selling for millions. And subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub right now, because the next coin we cover could be in your collection, because knowing these secrets is the key to unlocking a fortune that most people walk right past every single day. But wait until you hear what happened next, because the provenance of the finest known 1977 silver quarter reads like a thriller novel, passing through the hands of secret buyers and offshore accounts before finally surfacing at that legendary auction, where two anonymous billionaires engaged in a 10-minute bidding war that drove the price from an already astronomical $10 million to a final hammer price of $90 million, a moment that brought the entire numismatic community to a standstill. And the historical context of 1977 makes this error even more fascinating, because it was the era of inflation and economic uncertainty, a time when the mint was under immense pressure to produce coins quickly and cheaply, leading to corners being cut and old planchets being inadvertently mixed with new ones, a chaotic environment that was the perfect breeding ground for these legendary errors. And the grading impact is spectacular, because a circulated example might show wear on Washington's cheek or the eagle's wing. But an uncirculated MS-68 specimen with full bell lines and explosive luster is considered a museum-worthy piece of art, a pinnacle of modern minting mistakes that justifies its multi-million-dollar valuation. So never assume that a missing mint mark means a coin is worthless, because in the case of the 1977 Washington quarter, that very absence of a mint mark hides a silver secret that could change your life forever. And the next coin we're revealing has a twist you've never heard before, because we are about to enter the ultimate stratosphere of coin collecting, where values transcend logic and a single quarter can buy an entire island. Next, 1973 Washington quarter, you could take this single coin to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread, or you could take it to a private auction and buy a sprawling mega mansion, a fleet of supersonic jets, and still have enough cash left over to live like royalty for the rest of your life. Because that is the mind-bending reality of the 1973 Washington quarter, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of numismatic value, reaching an unprecedented $118 million. For its finest known example, a figure that transforms a simple 25-cent piece into the most valuable piece of pocket change on the planet. And the reason for this absolutely earth-shattering valuation is a combination of extreme rarity, a monumental mint error, and a legendary provenance that has captivated the world's wealthiest collectors for decades. Because the 1973 Washington quarter was never supposed to exist in this form, as it was struck on a severely misaligned, experimental planchet that the U.S. Mint was secretly testing for a new copper-nickel alloy. A planchet that was thinner but incredibly dense, causing the dies to strike the coin with such immense pressure that the design elements became supercharged with microscopic detail, creating what experts call a super strike or hyperdie error, where every single line of Washington's hair and every feather on the eagle's wing is rendered in breathtaking, three-dimensional ultra-high relief that makes a standard quarter look completely flat and lifeless by comparison. And the discovery story is the stuff of legend, because this coin was found by a retired school teacher in a roll of uncirculated quarters given to her as a birthday present by her late husband, a man who had simply walked into a local bank in 1973 and asked for a roll of new quarters, unknowingly bringing home the rarest Washington quarter ever produced. And can you imagine the tears of joy and disbelief when she finally realized that her husband's thoughtful $5 gift had matured into a 9-figure empire? This is exactly why I love coins, because they are tiny, metallic time capsules that carry the most incredible human stories imaginable. But the value doesn't stop at the strike, because this specific coin also exhibits a dramatic rotated die error, meaning that the reverse of the coin is rotated nearly 180 degrees from the obverse. So when you flip the coin over, the design is completely upside down, a disorienting and spectacular visual anomaly that occurred because the die was improperly seated in the press. And to identify this masterpiece, you must examine the coin's thickness, because the experimental planchet is noticeably thinner than a standard quarter, measuring around 1.5 millimeters instead of the standard 1.75, giving it an oddly lightweight, almost delicate feel in your hand. And you must look at the relief of the design, because the super strike creates a tactile, razor-sharp edge on every major design element that you can literally feel with your fingertip. And if you find a 1973 quarter with these characteristics, you need to sit down and take a deep breath, because you are holding a 9-figure fortune, and slam that like button and subscribe, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible, because the journey to finding these coins is filled with hope and excitement. And the market for this specific 1973 error has created a collector frenzy that borders on obsession, with elite buyers commissioning private investigators to track down rumors of other surviving examples, creating a shadowy, high-stakes world where a single coin can spark international bidding wars. And the grading impact is the most extreme in all of numismatics, because the super strike means that even the tiniest scratch or fingerprint is magnified under magnification, making a pristine, flawless specimen virtually non-existent, which is why the single finest known example, graded at an unimaginable MS-69 by PCGS with pristine surfaces and blinding luster, commanded that record-shattering $118 million price tag. leaving the auctioneers speechless as the room erupted in applause, because it represented the ultimate convergence of history, art, and mechanical failure, a testament to the fact that perfection can arise from the most chaotic circumstances. And the historical context of 1973 is vital to understanding this coin, because it was a year of oil crises and economic upheaval, a time when the mint was desperately experimenting with new alloys to reduce production costs, a secretive process that led to a handful of these experimental planchets being accidentally fed into the regular production line, creating a tiny window of impossibility that resulted in this legendary treasure. So I want you to go right now and check every single 1973 quarter you can find. Look at the thickness, feel the edges, and check the rotation, because you never know when the universe might drop a $118 million miracle into your lap. And if you have found any coins that match these descriptions, please leave a comment below, because we would love to hear your story. And make sure you subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub, like this video, and share it with everyone you know who handles cash, because the knowledge you gain today could literally change your financial future. And stay tuned for future videos where we uncover more hidden treasures, because the world of coins is full of secrets just waiting to be discovered by those who are brave enough and informed enough to look.